2023 was a rough year, to say the least. I'm sitting right here on this little shag carpet that me and my ex-girlfriend bought. This was the exact place that was sitting. I made like linguine with like shrimp, and it was like this big thing because I don't cook fish. I don't like fish. I don't like eating it. So like anything seafood is just not for me. My ex-girlfriend was going through some health problems, and so we had taken a drive out to a forest preserve, which is something we never would do. We kind of were homebodies for the most part. She was going through some health problems, and it just really wasn't convenient for us to go out that often other than like for little drives. But we decided to go to this forest preserve, and I had known that day that my dad had been missing. He had just been kind of not around, and the last time I had talked to him was 2 days prior, and he called me, and he was just apologizing for all this stuff, all these random things that he had done, and like it was disorganized and just all over the place. It just didn't make any sense. And I remember saying to him, "Dad, we need to take you to the hospital. I think something's wrong." And he told me, "Let's talk about it on Monday, buddy. I love you so much. I really appreciate you looking out for me. I'll talk to you on Monday." So Monday rolls around, and we're going to the forest preserve, and I had known he was missing, and my mom had said, like, well, we gotta look for him. And I'm like, I remember as clear as day, I said, "Mom," I said, wherever he is right now, I don't think he wants to be found, and I don't think he will be found. Like, I don't know where he is at this moment. I figured maybe he was at like a family member's house or a friend or something. But I'm like, he doesn't want to be found in this moment. He's probably just wants to be alone. And we went to this forest preserve, and I remember talking about how I missed my dad's fishing boat. Came home, made the pasta, made the shrimp, and just as I'm about to plate it up, I'm plating it up, my ex-girlfriend gets a call from my mom, which is just an unusual thing in general. Like, my mom has never called my ex-girlfriend up to that point, I don't think, directly. And so I know something's wrong, and I'm sitting down, putting the food over by her, and then my mom answers the phone, and she's nearly crying and screaming, and she's saying that your dad is dead, and he shot himself at a forest preserve. And I couldn't even cry. I couldn't even feel any emotion in the moment because I was so in shock and so destroyed. I remember asking, "Is he alive?" after my mom had repeatedly suggested to me that he had been dead, because I couldn't even believe that it was a real thing that had happened. It was like so surreal, so fucking just unreal to even believe that this was my life. It just didn't feel real to me. I'm moving out of this apartment pretty soon, and one thing I'm definitely going to not take with me is this carpet. I am so excited to get rid of this carpet. I'm going to throw it out. I'm burning it. Whatever I'm going to do, I'm getting rid of this. I think it's so bad for your mental health to live in the place where you learn that your parent committed suicide. I can say that for pretty much fact. it's like every time I walk into this place, I'm haunted by the ghost of what had happened. And so for me, getting rid of this place, while it's sad and I will miss it, is a nice place. I am so excited to be out of here because I couldn't even imagine living here another month. I think that after January, I think I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be fully gone from this place, and I'm gonna feel like I don't need to be here anymore. There's a little lake back here. It's one of the few things that I liked about 2023. I used to come here a lot, especially after my dad passed, and me and Maria would lay on the blanket over there and smoke our cigarettes and chill out. This was good memories here, you know what I mean? Like, it was one of those things where you're like, even out of a bad situation, I made the good out of it, you know? I guess we did. Yeah, I don't know. It's snowing. You can't really see it. Let's see if we can like change the exposure on this. You're not gonna be able to see it, but it's snowing. It's cool. It looks great. I think that it's really underrated to have like a spot that you go to like have rituals. And I think like one thing that we did definitely right is like having that ritual did give like myself the ability to relax and like feel a little bit happier. And I think that's one thing I've learned when I went to like inpatient and outpatient therapy was like giving yourself like a little thing that you do. Like, okay, let's say I go to a restaurant. You know, I like to go to take myself on dates, you know what I mean? Take myself out without like going with anyone else. Like, you don't need to like have anyone else to do that. You can just go by yourself. So sometimes I'll go get pizza at like, you know, some place that I like to eat. So let me pick the camera up and see if I can take you over to the lake. This is very informal, by the way, but it's more of a pond than a lake, but whatever. I call it the lake. I like it. It's beautiful. I shot some scenes for Chlorine Kills here, but we had to pretend that we were in like New Jersey or something, or New York or East Coast. I don't know if it really sold for that, but whatever. It's cool. You can start seeing all the snow that's like accumulating on my beard. But yeah, I would sit down here right by these rocks, chilling out, having fun. It was one of the few things that, like, again, like, made this year bearable. Even if, you know, there was a lot of bad shit. I'll definitely miss this view. I think that the view is worth the price of the apartment. It was expensive. It was a very expensive apartment, but it's a lovely view. And I guess one thing I never told anyone is that this is actually where my parents lived back in, I want to say, the 90s. My parents lived here. So that's kind of interesting. I think it's part of also what makes me feel like this place is kind of, maybe not cursed, but like has bad energy, you know? It has bad energy because, like, I associate it with my family and what happened with my dad, and I just wish that we could kind of move on from that. So, kind of putting that in the past. I'm just going to get a shot of the snow now. Give me a second here. On my way to my car. Give me a second, let me cross the road. It's weird because this is like a new car, but an old car, but a new car. So I had two cars in 2022. That's my car. I'll show you a little closer shot when I get there. And you might recognize this car because it's actually Joel Dick's car. Joel Dick sold it to me. So I was in two car crashes this year. One was just like a self by myself, like almost hit a tree, but I was fine. And then the second one, I was in a car crash, my fault, and my car was totaled. I own 2 cars, but my ex-wife, Elizabeth, stole the other one. I gave her the title, and she did not pay me the full amount, so it was a rough year for cars. I lost both of my cars that I entered this year with, and I ended up with Joel Dick's car, which is kind of weird. Honestly, I like it. It's good. But, you know, I had that moment, you know. Sorry, I'm going to put the lighting down there. I had that moment when I was, like, my car had broken, you know, I got in that crash the second time, where I broke down. Like, I was, like, literally, I was in shorts and sandals. It was freezing outside, and I had hit my car bad enough that, like, the fluid was leaking, so I couldn't really do anything to, like, turn the heat on because the cop told me to turn it off. And I had this moment where I literally was like, what is my life? Literally, I'm sitting on the side of a road. My car is broken down. I have no money. I've just been in a car crash. I lost my dad. This is the second car crash I've been in. And the other one was like not that long ago. And it kind of like hit me in that moment that like, holy shit, all this shit has been happening to me. And like, it was kind of overpowering. And that night I had a friend who I was talking to at the time, and she was like, I was going to get food, and she was so nice that she bought me some food that night, like DoorDashed it to me because I had no money. Yeah, that was like one of the nicest gestures I think someone's ever done for me. It was just literally, this person barely knew me and literally just bought me Wendy's. And I like kind of broke down when I got the food because I was kind of like, holy shit, my life is a fucking mess right now. You know, my life is a mess. But the little things, like the little people that like just kind of give you one little thing here, and they might not be someone that's always on your journey, but they're just there for a minute. That is the type of stuff that keeps you around. That's the stuff that keeps you going. And honestly, it's really, that's something I think about a lot. It's just like little kindness from those just strangers. But yeah, I think that the craziest thing is just sometimes when you're in life, you're like going with or against the wind. And I think a lot of times people will say that's like a choice, like, oh, you're going with the wind or you're going against the wind, and it's like a choice that you can choose. And 2023 for me, it was like every chance I had to like make things better, it got worse. I started the year off, and I got divorced. So I had broken up with my ex in 2022 because they cheated on me. They cheated on me and were very physically abusive, you know. They physically hit me, you know, were not very nice to me. And I couldn't stand to be around someone who couldn't control their emotions so much that they literally would hurt me. So when it came to 2023, you know, this person had harassed me and had suggested they were going to post, you know, private photos. And what was crazy is just like, in 2023, I had to go through that experience of getting divorced and having to like physically stand up to this person in court and like not let them bully me around. And it was scary. I do feel like I had a lot of anxiety around it, but I knew that I could do it. And ultimately, I think I won, you know, even though afterwards, you know, things had patched up enough that, you know, she would end up buying my car and then stealing it. it's a pathetic way to get back at someone, you know what I mean? She wanted to get back at me. I was being kind and said, hey, your car's broken down. I'll sell you my car. And she stole it from me, so. That's a person that is so insecure with themselves that they can't even understand the pain and the trauma that they've caused, and ultimately, if anything that I take away, like, that was a hard thing to go through, but it was a necessary thing to go through, you know what I mean? It was necessary that I got through that pain. And I think the thing I look at it from my perspective is that people are flawed. And, you know, I'm the first to admit I am a flawed fucking person. And I think people should be forgiven. And, like, for any person that I've ever been wronged by, I usually try to think from the perspective of, like, where are they coming from? What has caused them to be in this moment? And there's a lot of stuff that causes people to get to the place that they're in. And you just gotta allow yourself that 360 perspective to understand, like why would they do this? Like, why would they make me want to feel this way? And I think jumping straight into like another relationship right after that was sort of hard because I didn't really have a lot of time to think about the perspective of my ex. So now that I've been out of it, I've thought about everything in a little more 360 perspective. And I think I've come to the realization that, like, in a relationship, you know, you both end up hurting each other, and you do things that you regret, especially if it's a toxic one. And I do think that, you know, I have my own regrets that I did in that relationship, but ultimately, you know, I have to make peace with, like, moving on. This is the second time I've come back, and there's a different angel laying at my dad's grave. I've asked literally everyone in my family who's put that there, and no one can tell me who did. It's kind of a weird concept to... It's a weird concept to imagine your dad under the ground. Just laying there. It's not normal, not something you should have to go through this young. When he was 27, he lost his mom, and I was 27, I lost him. He passed away the day after his mom's anniversary of his death, and he had visited her the night before. And I can't even imagine the pain that he was in that moment. The pain and the sorrow that he was feeling. And when the coroner talked to us, they said initially that it was death instantly. But when they called us back, they said that he had been alive for 30 minutes after he had shot himself. And I can't even imagine what was going through his head as he took those final moments, I think there should be a law that coroners shouldn't be able to tell you how he died. Like, tell you if he died instantly or not. Because that really messed me up, knowing that he was still alive when he shot himself. It's the place where you pray sometimes. It's nice. There's a scene in Chlorine Kills that I'm putting in this location here. What's interesting is he's buried right next to someone who we grew up with when I was a kid. His last name's Apaquin, and he's a football player, and my dad was big in football. So it's kind of interesting that someone I kind of know is buried right next to my dad. It's funny, I've tried to get it to snow literally every day this year because I gotta film a scene for a movie here in the snow. And it's literally not snowed any day consistently enough for me to do the scene. And today it's snowing. Right when I'm about to shoot a different thing, this little project here, now it's finally snowing. This is my car. I always take one last look before I go.
I've got a wonderful feeling that's right for being wrong. Lately the Lord's got me kneeling. It's been hard to get along, but when I've got you in the corner of my eye, all my moments are the same when we are not. I saw you twice before. Now I really wanna see you more. I played the game of heartbreak. The emptiness remains. But how much loneliness can a man take till he tries to take the reins? I've got you in the corner of my eye. All my moments are the same when we are not. I saw you twice before. Now I really wanna see you more. I know that I won't forget.
That was the childhood home that I grew up in. We had to sell it this year. situation was basically could not keep living there with everything that happened with my dad and money and stuff, so the family had to move out. So we just sold that pretty recently. And it's weird to like associate a place that has like everything that you associate with your family, like dinners and parties and fires and things that you would do with your family, everything you associate there. And there's like a physical town that you like, you know where everything is. You could go to the gas station if your eyes were closed. Like, you know exactly where everything is. And that place is now no longer a place you live in. You know what I mean? Like, when I travel out here, it usually means like safety. Like, oh, I'm like out in Plainfield. I know where I'm at. Like, if anything happens, I know like what's going on. Like, my family's out here. They can take care of me. But I can't associate safety with this place anymore just because like no one lives here. You know what I mean? So like, it's still like the ghost of a family lived here, you know? And that's just really strange, you know? I still love this town, I still love this area, but I think that it's a strange feeling. Like, I'm not like really in love with the feeling of like not living here, you know? And my biggest fear as a child was moving away from my childhood home. And it's so funny how that, you know, it ranks as one of the biggest things that happened this year, but it's definitely not even in the top 5, probably.
Because I love you, I wonder why can't you see?
Joel's first reaction to the mentor.
Yes, my kiss would do so much, it would drive away all my fear. These ain't raindrops.
That's Nathan.
My eyes,
That's Nathan Cash.
they are tears.
Who is it? That's Nathan Cash. Oh my gosh. Oh my, he's on the big screen. Oh my. Oh, here we go.
These ain't raindrops in my eyes, they are wiping away.
Ooh. There he is.
Joel boy, how was your 2023?
It's a mixed 2023 for me, you know. I would say probably not as a straight line as I would want it to be. More of just a bunch of ups, a bunch of downs. But it seems to be ending well.
Yeah, I would agree
Seems
with you
to
on
be
that. Ending decent.
Yeah, and that's things you care about the most is where you're feeling now, and you know, that can be deceiving, but
Yeah.
I think you need years like this to basically figure out what you really rely on, you know, what you really put your trust and hope in. If everything's great, what do you do? Everything's just great, and you just get bored of it at some point, right?
Well, yeah, I think at some point there's like, life is not a linear path. You know, if there is no pain and suffering, probably there isn't really any joy in some way too. If you're, you know what I mean? Like, you're not feeling the same sort of like contrast of like, okay, bad things happen, and then when the good things happen, you're there to appreciate them a little bit more.
Feels like the older you get, the smarter you get, which means you realize how screwed up the world is more.
Yeah.
So you can either decide to use that to bring you down, or decide that you don't want to let that fact really affect you or not.
Yeah, that's a good point. This shot looks really cool. You look like some taxi driver drive shit.
Back and forth.
What are you looking forward to in 2024? towards in terms of goals?
Yeah, just what my goal was last year, just growing.
Yeah.
Growing, focusing more. There's things I've been trying to work on building up, a really consistent routine, and I think that's it. I think I've lived a lot of my life sort of not consistently, and I think that's it's time for that sort of consistency where I build up something that I just do on a consistent basis.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Why are you shooting it that way, Dan? Where are you going? Sunday to 12 a.m. Don't have a lot of time, Dan. Gotta make the most of it. $2023. Give us a quick rundown. I don't know how much storage my iPhone has left.
So, 2023, got Dove at the end of 2022. So, like the very first week, I got Dove, my cat. In March, I must say it was March, I got divorced from Elizabeth. In May or April, I think it was April. No, it was April. March, April. Yeah, it was April. Maria was in the hospital for a while, so I was going to the hospital a bunch. May, you know what happened in May. Dad passed away May 1st.
Jim's passed away on the 1st. Jim's passed away on July 1st.
Huh?
Jim's passed away on July 1st.
Really? Oh yeah, because he passed on. We were shooting Long Con.
That was my birthday.
And it's your birthday.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it just came to me. Yeah, I remember that. That's weird. Yeah,
Both on the 1st of it.
both father figures in chlorine movies. Weird. What else happened? I went on a trip to Rockford. That was cool. That was fun.
Yes, please. So, 2023 is about to be over. Everyone sort of talks about, what's your New Year's resolution? But there's an implied question in that question, which is, like, what do you really regret about 2023? Like, what do you sit back and say, I shouldn't have done it.
I think I regret staying with someone I wasn't happy with for a long time, longer than I was comfortable with. I think it was hard to destroy something when things had already been destroyed. And so I think the weaker self, the weaker mind is just like go with it because it's easier. And I think that like I knew things were messed up before I had even reached the point of losing my dad. And then when I lost my dad, it felt like I was in too deep that I couldn't stop things because I felt like I needed that person at that moment. And so I think if anything, I would want to change. I would have gone back and been stronger and been willing to go it alone, even if it meant to be uncomfortable longer, you know, or maybe not as comfortable in that point, you know. But it's a hard decision to make because in that moment, you don't know. You don't know like how things would pan out, so like it's hard to say. But I think like for me, my biggest regret was staying in a relationship I wasn't happy with, that didn't serve me, didn't make me happy, and ultimately was a lot of my undoing in a lot of ways. Like it made my life harder, and I think like I can only see that now in retrospect how much easier my life is without that person.
I don't think anyone.
Not blaming that person either. I'm
No,
just saying.
I don't think anyone surrounded by destruction ever wants to add any more to that total.
No, that's what I'm trying to say. Like I
You know?
think it's hard because you're trying to be holding on to things because you want them to be close because you've already lost a lot of things. But sometimes the only way for, you know, the butterfly to form is for the cocoon to be destroyed.
What's one moment from 2023 where you look back and you say, gosh darn it, that was one of the greatest decisions I could have ever made? Because I think when you're doing life, you don't really have that perspective yet to know whether it was a great decision or not. But sometimes you look back and you're like, wow, that was, if I didn't do that, it would like it wouldn't have been a lot worse, you know? Like that was a great decision by me. Any of those come to mind?
Probably buying your car. Honestly, out of all decisions, buying your car probably was the smartest decision I made this year. I'm trying to think of anything else that even rivals that.
Okay. I was not expecting that.
Buying the car. I mean, getting divorced is great. I mean, like that helps. I mean, getting out of that situation, but that was something I was kind of forced to do.
So that's like, if you're forced to do it, is that really a decision that you made at that point?
That's what I'm trying to say. I'm saying I don't think it's a decision. So it's like buying the car. Is there anything else that I did that was like really? I mean, probably sticking with my job. I don't want to go into too much details about my job on here, but like sticking with the job when it was probably easier for me to get a different job or you know do something else, and my ex had wanted me to go somewhere else. I think sticking with the job was like the smartest mental health decision I made in 2023. So like sticking with it and going with it and being happy with that choice, that was smart.
Seems like there's a lot of decisions that really aren't decisions. Just like you said, they're just sort of just the way it just goes. They're sort of forced into it.
But there was definitely a point where like I had the option, if I wanted to, I could have gone somewhere else. It's just like I definitely decided that this was easier for me to handle than something that may pay a bit better, but would be much more stressful.
And that's what I'm saying, you know? Like, how much of our lives are sort of just not even our decision? We're just sort of going with the flow.
Yeah,
you know?
going with the flow, what's like good for you, and you know.
Like it's not really a 50. Most decisions aren't 50-50, meaning like both are as equally as good or bad, and they could be important there or they might not be. You don't know, but at the time, you have to make those decisions. And obviously, that was one. Do I stay with this one job or do I go and try to find something else?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Oh, those are the hardest decisions to make.
I think they're hard because I think you're put in a situation where your back is against the wall. You know?
Yeah.
And when I made that decision, I knew it was going to be a hard decision to make because it was like, either go and stay at home and spend more time with my current partner, or do a job that would probably be pay less, but I would be happier with.
Yeah.
And I had to choose me for once. So I think that was hard.
So the best decision was finally the decision where you said, you know, I'm gonna choose something that I want to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that choosing yourself is never a decision that's gonna, you know, not pay off. You know.
Well, I think it's a baseline for most people. Most people tend to just choose. I'd say you're an outlier if you actually choose to do things for others.
And I don't think there's anything bad with that either. I think
It can be good or it can be bad.
it just depends on the situation.
It can be good or it can be bad. That's something that I definitely struggle with. Is like, what do I truly deep down want to do myself?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the times I am sort of focused on what others are thinking about, what others want, and I'm trying to, you know, help other people. And there are times where you need to make that decision for yourself. What are you going to do? And if the person that you're with really loves you, they're going to go with what you decide because they love you the most.
Of course. And I think truly when someone loves you and cares about you, they want what's best for you, and they will sacrifice to some level if they know that something is going to be better for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
True love, I think, is going to be accepting of something that, like, oh, honey, you're going to be working really late, but, like, I still want you to come home and be there for me, like, you know, be there with me, like, that'll still work out if you care about someone. If you don't, or if you don't have that, like, deep connection, it's harder to want those things. You kind of want a more selfish love.
Yeah. Are you trying to make 2024 a year where you make more of those decisions? The ones that you look back on and
I think it's
hey,
more,
I made this for myself. And
I think it's
it was
more
the
just
right
like
decision.
having a self-accountability. Like accountability to what I chose is like this was all like I felt like in 2023 my whole year was like doing decisions that I didn't want to do and like was forced to do because like I had no other options. My dad passed away, so I had to get a new job because I had to because that was my only option. I had to get divorced because that was the only option. I had to, you know, break up with someone because that was the only option. Like all those decisions were kind of choices I felt like I had very little control over. They just kind of naturally happened. So feeling like I have more control over my choices is like a goal. So
there you go. More control over your own choices.
someone changes to Avatar: The Way of the Water.
I don't want to talk about things we've gone through, though it's hurting me. Now it's history. I've played all my cards, and that's what you've done too. Nothing more to say. No more race to play. The winner takes it all. The loser is standing small.
I win!
Beside the